The Victoria, Walthamstow, the last bastion of hope for grotty, run-down, old-school boozers in East London. Entering Walthamstow's pub scene in 1977, this free house has remained almost unchanged since opening. The wallpaper may be peeling off, but the pints are as cheap as chips. We have a wide range of beer with 2 rotating guest ales, an assortment of lagers, and the best pint of Guinness in town. If beers ain't your thing, with a variety of cocktails, such as vodka and coke, vodka and lemonade, vodka and orange, vodka and cranberry, whiskey and coke, whiskey over ice, or if you're feeling adventurous, a gin and tonic. Not only is the Victoria one of the last traditional East End boozers in town, but it's also one of the only gay-friendly pubs, transforming itself every Saturday night into a space for the LGBT community to come and watch various acts booked by our promoter, Pixie of Pixie Presents.
My name's Victoria Sponge. I'm Walthamstow's probably only, but local drag queen. I've lived in Walthamstow now for 8 years. I've actually been coming into the Vic slightly longer than that. One of the reasons that I moved to Walthamstow was because I used to come in the Vic maybe about 10 years ago for the LGBT night on a Saturday. And the customers and staff and all my friends were so welcoming and friendly here. It was one of the attractions for me to move to this part of the world. I think that Victoria's changed over the course of the time that I've lived in Walthamstow, mainly with the sort of people that we attract into the pub. It was very much just a gay night on a Saturday night, but now it's very welcoming to the whole community. And I like to think that the Victoria is like a proper East End pub from the good old days, where anybody would come in, it would be sort of a hub of the local community. And it's that for the wider community, but also for the LGBT plus community too. The weekend events at the Victoria are very varied, which I like. Obviously, we have a lot of drag queens, which is great because it pays my mortgage and keeps me in a home. We have various other drag queens, but we have drag kings, we have bands on. From time to time, we have competitions like Drag Idol and charity nights where everybody can get involved. I would say that the Victoria is vital for the LGBT plus community in Walthamstow. It's recognised as being our only really proper gay-friendly venue and has been for over a decade now. It would be a terrible shame if anything were ever to happen to the Victoria, but hopefully it won't, and long may it continue. I think over the course, certainly of the last 10 years, there has been quite a decrease in the number of LGBT venues that are available to people. That's partly changing times. People are now going onto social media a lot more and finding other avenues to meet other LGBT people. But I still myself believe that it's important that there is an environment where LGBT people can come and make friends, but also feel welcome and have a safe space as well. I love the Victoria. I think it's a fantastic venue. It's a proper, to me, not always having lived in London, it's a proper East End venue, but updated in that it caters to everybody in the community. I absolutely love it. I love the decor. It's proper old style pub. And it's always welcoming, always friendly. It's a great venue.
If that ain't your cup of tea, we also show live sporting events such as the football, rugby, snooker, and even made-up sports like wrestling. The weekly cabaret nights aren't the only event Pixie books. We have a wide range of monthly events every Thursday night. On the first Thursday of the month is our open mic night.
I'm Sam, I'm 32, I'm born and raised in Walthamstow, and I'm a chef, also a musician, many things. Depends who's asking. Well, me and my friend, we were gigging around like Soho and around London and doing some drag king stuff as well. And I think Katie just noticed it and she asked us if we could perform something and create a night, and that's where the open mic come about. Sometimes you get some randoms, I like them because you never know what they're going to throw at you, so they're nice. And we get regulars, and we get locals, and we get friends, my friends. I get people that I know have performed elsewhere and have met at other open mic nights. And yeah, it varies. Some people just hear it and they just walk off the street. They like that. I like them ones. They're good too. We had a washboard player, which encouraged me to learn one once for a little bit. I'm a thimble collector, so I've got loads to spare, so it's all good. But yeah, so it depends. It depends on the performer. I personally like my country and power ballads, love songs, that kind of stuff. They're my favourite. So I love the Vic. I used to work here when I was like 21, and I kind of saved this as well. This was my job before I went travelling. That's how I earned my money to go travelling. So I've always had a bit of a, heart for it. A heart for Victoria, because we used to come in for the karaoke nights every Friday. So that's kind of just built a friendship around that. So yeah, it's a lovely pub. I like it. And it's just local, and it kind of just brings the nice people know how to talk here rather than perform like socially, if that makes sense. And I like talkers. So.
Fancy some reggae? Come and see General Echo Sound System on the second Thursday of every month.
Yeah, my name's Matthew. I run a regular night at the Victoria called General Echo. I live in Walthamstow with my family, and we've been doing the night for just over 3 years. It's basically a reggae disco. We started doing it just to sort of play some music that we really loved, and yeah, I've loved different types of reggae for like a long time. It still blows my mind that there's this tiny island in the Caribbean that such a huge amount of really amazing music came from, and we just wanted to sort of share the love in a public space. So yeah, and then it's kind of sort of evolved a bit from just me and a friend of mine that I do the night with, Dan, just playing tunes, to inviting other people that have got amazing records to come down and play music as well. I've lived in Walthamstow about 5 years, and probably not much before I started doing the night, if I'm being honest. I remember I always used to, because one thing that's slightly unusual about the Victoria is because it's upstairs, it's not a pub where you can sort of peer in the window. And I remember walking past the Victoria a lot and being sort of like a bit intrigued and maybe slightly intimidated about it, because I just saw this sort of set of stairs, and I never really went in it until I was like looking for a venue to do a night. And then I came down a few times before we did General Echo to sort of scope it out a bit. I think I came to the karaoke on a Friday night, sort of get a sort of general feel for the place. But yeah, sort of been popping in fairly regularly since then. Yeah, I love it. It's for a few different reasons. I think it's it sparks a slightly nostalgic thing in me, because it really reminds me of my dad's local and sort of like the pubs I got taken to when I was growing up, because it's fairly, I think it's fair to say it's fairly unchanged since it opened in the early 80s, and it really reminds me of pubs I went into as a child with my dad. But it's also, like, as I was saying earlier, I think it's a bit different from any of the other pubs around. There's like pubs where you just like can go and watch sport, watch Sky TV or whatever, and there's pubs which are more like, they do like fancy food or whatever. But the Victoria feels like a proper kind of, it feels like a proper pub in the original meaning of the word, of it being like a public house. It's like it's a very welcoming, inclusive kind of place, and you get a real broad range of people coming in here.
House jazz band Los Ostros are here every third Thursday of the month.
Well, I'm a white male. I'm 87 years old. I'm a would-be musician. I have been an engineer, a sailor, and a soldier. I've arrived here at the Vic about 4 years ago, maybe even 5. And on my birthday, nearly 3 years ago, they gave me this, my only award, a platinum disc for my band, which is called Los Otros. I followed up an inclination I had to play jazz by going to a jazz workshop run by a nice man who's now dead, and started to play guitar again. And it was most illuminating. And after about a year meeting with them, I took some of the musicians who were there and we formed a band called Nosotros. And we played in the other local pub for about 4 years. And I went to Australia and New Zealand and the band fell apart. And when I came back, I found the landlords were perfectly reasonable people, but were also money orientated and wouldn't give any away. They only gave us one payment in 4 years. I think that was out of guilt. But so we left there. And then we found ourselves here because the lady who manages this place, a delightful young woman, became not only my boss as a musician, but also came to live with us in our house for a year or so while she was between whatever she was between. And so I've been so fortunate. I've like fallen on my feet. Though they don't work too well. The thing about the Vic, which not enough people seem to recognise, it's the only bohemian pub in this part of the world. And it caters for all tastes. And I feel so fortunate to be part of it, you know. That's about all I can say about the people who come here. All nationalities. People come back and back and back, and then don't come for a while and then come back. But that's how I live anyway. I'm sure you do too. But it's a great place. I have at the moment a great bunch of compatriot musicians. And they seem to like playing here. They say it's the best party they go to. And we have a very open, free time. Sometimes gets a bit out of hand, sometimes gets a bit drudgery, but mostly it's exuberant. That's how I like to think of it as. It's friendly. It's friendly. It's seedy, but that's what it's supposed to be. You know, that the people who come here tend to be a bit seedy because they like the ambivalence of the place, I think, and that suits them because they feel ambivalent about so much, probably.
And our last monthly event on the last Thursday of the month, it's Her Factory.
My name is Dean Brannigan. I run a night here at the Victoria called It's Her Factory, which promotes new and exciting music of electronic. Well, it's not strictly electronic. It can be anything really. If it's interesting, I'm gonna put it on. Well, I moved to Walthamstow about a year ago now, and I started coming in here, fell in love with it, and thought at the time it would be a fantastic place, to put on live bands. This was before I knew that they were already doing that, but it was a quiet Monday night or something, and I thought, well. I came in there a few times and then I approached the promoter, Pixie, and said to her, I'd like to start a night up here of, kind of new, exciting electronic music. It doesn't have to be electronic, it can be, kind of post-punk, it can be acoustic, it could be anything, it could be performance art. The reason I called it It's Her Factory is that I've got a positive bias towards female creators and composers making music, so it's not a kind of strict rule, but it's biased towards that, so that it has a bit more, kind of balanced approach, I think, because if you say, right, I'm going to go more towards something that's already imbalanced, then hopefully it's going to balance it. I came in here before I moved here, and I remember thinking, oh, thank God there's a decent pub I can go to, because I didn't know Walthamstow at all. And I mean, I've discovered some other places, but this is the one that I sort of thought, right, okay, yeah, you know, you need your local. But a lot of the pubs that you see that are try to still retain what they used to be, they're still being kind of like done up and, you know, gentrified, and, you know, it's just not the same, even though they try and make it the same. And yeah, I just think this place is authentic. That's why I like coming here. Came in here, I thought this is perfect for it, because it reminded me of old school punk pubs. You know, it's got that kind of shabby chic sort of scuzziness that I love. You know, and it has that. It sort of reflects the sort of culture that I sort of come from and grew up. You know, I grew up as a punk and yeah. So I love the Victoria. It's my kind of pub. It's, you know, doesn't look like it's been redecorated since 1953, and it's just got an atmosphere and a character about it, and it's really rare that you get these pubs that have just gone, right, fuck it, we're just going to stay the way we want to stay. And, you know, it's not always better to kind of like, oh, let's paint it up and do it up and make it nice, and, you know, and then why? You know, just leave it as it is. It's fine. There's nothing wrong. Don't fix it if it's not, you know, broken, is the old cliche. But no, I just love it the way it is, and I hope it stays the way it is for as long as it can. My only thing about the Vic is that it gets really busy here on maybe a Friday night and a Saturday night, but it should be busy all the time. You know, it's got. That's what I wanted to do with It's Her Factory. Is that make it a kind of a hub for people to come to, where they can be creative, and it can, you know, have a diverse, you know, sort of atmosphere. And does that make sense?
And that's not even half the events we regularly put on, with talks hosted by Walthamstow's Rock and Roll Book Club every now and then, various DJ nights, and how could we ever forget, karaoke every Friday and a pub quiz every Sunday. So if any of that tickles your fancy, get your ass down to Victoria.